No foreign language calling you little fish today. I don't have any good reason why. Also, I'm gonna need to set up the Wheel of Fortune, and I've still got the Globus in my throat. If you don't know what a Globus is, look it up. You've experienced it before, probably quite a lot actually, because it's not typically a very severe condition, but I've had it for a while now, and it's very distracting and making it difficult to talk and to breathe. Anyway, welcome back to Overclock Showcase. If you watched the end of last episode, you would know that for our second, fifth, but second in the second go round of Driller Primary Overclocks. Was look at this guy. Although that's not the guy we're starting with. Is of course Tuned Cooler. Now, is it still called that? Yeah, it used to be called Fine Tuned Cooler when it was a clean overclock, which was a bit silly. It is weird though, because the actual numbers that this overclock's putting up don't seem very high, but they also are. Tuned Cooler is kind of the it's the freezing overclock. It just freezes stuff, and that's it. It just makes the cryo cannon better at freezing, which is cool. And for that reason, I would say I have to imagine it is the most used cryo cannon. I don't even think crystal nucleation is going to change that. And of course, every version of the cryo cannon freezes, and that's always going to play a role. But this is a case where we're so hyper focused on it in a very simplistic way. Crystal nucleation, snowball, they're kind of there to freeze, but in a slightly different way. Crystal nucleation, of course, has the actual damage over time aspect, which is awesome. What a good overclock. And obviously these two are kind of that as well. The flow rate expansion is just so boring. I don't even know if I would. I'm tempted to skip it, like straight up. Anyway, there's also add stuff like Ice Storm and Ice Spear, which I want to use again. It's been a while since I used those overclocks, and I really like them. But they are definitely like in a different way, because normally what the cryo cannon is doing when it's freezing to allow for other damage sources to take advantage of freeze. Those two overclocks don't. This is sort of the ultimate perpetrator of freeze to let other things handle it. Even though Snowball is probably more so that. That's quite transformative of the cryo cannon, whereas this isn't. This is very much so normal cryo cannon. And of course, the idea behind Build Showcase, or Build Showcase, going back in time there, the idea of Overclock Showcase is to show off two of the most different builds that I think are still viable. And they are quite different actually. They're more different than I expected. I knew that always the key distinction between these two builds is going to be the tier 5 upgrade. Is Fragile and Cold Radiance. I knew that from the start. What I didn't know is how long it would take me to figure out the Fragile build. We're not starting with it. I think we're going to start with the one that I am just going to say this is a really straight up, very strong way of using Tuned Cooler. The strongest recommendation that I can give here. With the Wave Cooker. And you might have been expecting the Wave Cooker to show up in this video. That's no surprise, I think, for a lot of people. I think the Wave Cooker, chance of it showing up in any Driller video is way higher than 50%. It beats out the other two significantly. It's always going to be one of the two weapons. Although, actually, when I think about it, I'm pretty sure I have done one where I haven't used the Wave Cooker already. Obviously, if it's about a Sabata or EPC overclock, then it would involve the Wave Cooker. But aside from that, but this first build, this is Tuned Cooler built purely for kind of purely for freezing. It's a little bit abstract in that sense, but I think it's still doing what it needs to do. Because what Tuned Cooler does, it adds freezing power and flow rate. And flow rate does help you freeze. I think I may be partially blamable for the rise of this myth that flow rate is really bad for these weapons, for the flamethrower and the cryo cannon. When it's not, actually. It's just bad for cold radiance and heat radiance. Flow rate actually does help you freeze things quicker, because it means you literally use up more ammo because you're applying more ticks of cold quicker. So, our flow rate, even though it's an internal number, right, it's 110%, whatever that number is, you multiply that by the freezing power to get freezing power per second, and in this case it's going to be very high. And so while this build is entirely about freezing, it's about sort of combining the strengths of the overclock with cold radiance. Of course, the flow rate is making cold radiance slightly worse, but it's making it slightly better at freezing things at range. So we take range, we're also taking more freezing power in tier 1. We have even more. Otherwise, it would be a measly 9, you know. And in tier 3, we are not increasing the flow rate where we could, and where we will do in the next build. But ammo, so we're taking ammo over freezing power here, and that's just to balance out the strengths and weaknesses of the overclock and cold radiance. It's kind of better to have more ammo in this case because there's more ammo for cold radiance, but we still have an overall, stronger, better at freezing cryo cannon aside from cold radiance. So you should always be aiming at something to make sure you're not only using cold radiance. Cold radiance is really, kicks in. That's kind of what ITE is for, cold radiance. Literally, it's more ammo and you can shoot like it's more ammo and magazine size, or effective magazine size, with no caveats. So that is for cold radiance really. But this is still a cold radiance build. As such, we got our wave cooker for damage or tanky targets. We'll start with impact axes. Impact axes are here for tanky targets, deal chunk damage. The wave cooker will finish them off, but this is a very high damage wave cooker. This is high damage even against things that aren't frozen. And you might be surprised, Harry, why are you using the wave cooker with the cryo cannon, but you're not using the exothermic reactor? It's because you're not meant to, actually. I kind of had this delineation a while ago that I made for the wave cooker, and I still think there's some merit to it, because exothermic reactor is still a great thing to use with the cryo cannon. Don't get me wrong, I'm not stupid, and neither are you for using it. But I used to make this delineation where it was like, contagion transmitter is for the sludge pump, obviously. Exothermic reactor is for the flamethrower and the cryo cannon, kind of obviously as well. And boiler rate is for the wave cooker itself. I think that still applies, very much so. Boiler rate is a fantastic upgrade that really benefits the wave cooker's own damage. But I think there is a third way of seeing this. The third way is, of course, this is for the sludge pump, this is for the flamethrower, and this is for boiler rate. This is for the cryo cannon. And the reason why exothermic reactor is, I think, it's actually easy to say why it's better for the flamethrower than why it's worse for the cryo cannon, if you know what I mean. Because I can say why this is better for the flamethrower and why boiler rate is better for the cryo cannon. Exothermic reactor for the flamethrower is because the flamethrower, first of all, setting things on fire is easier. That's one of the biggest reasons, but it's easier in every way. The flamethrower starts shooting immediately, and things do just get set on fire quicker anyway. Burn temperatures are generally lower than freezing temperatures, or lower if you take away the minus symbol from the freeze temperature. So that's why exothermic reactor I think is a little bit better with the flamethrower, especially because of how heat spread works as well. I think that makes it very strong as well. And boiler rate, the reason why that works well with the cryo cannon so much is because even though the wave cooker is actually the only weapon in the game that doesn't deal direct damage but gets a 3 times bonus on the cryo cannon, and I don't know if that's because of as a radiation damage thing, because the wave cooker deals 50% fire, 50% radiation damage, damage type. It doesn't naturally radiate and set things on fire, obviously. You should know that. But it does get the damage bonus. So what we have here is super focus lens, which gives 50% more damage at close range. And we have our 9 damage by taking convex lens. It still seems quite small, but what this is 13.5 damage times 3, which is 39.5 damage. 39.5? No, 40.5. Which easily kills grunts in 3 ticks. In fact, it's actually overkill there. I think you could technically take magazine size, or magnetron tube. I didn't know it's called that. I think you could easily take this and be fine with it, but I've actually enjoyed using this way more. It's so kind of batshit. We also take larger power supply. In fact, I'm not going to swap these, although I do think there's power supply overdrive could be better. Wide lens add-on just helps when there's loads of enemies to shoot. But because of the way boiler rate works, you'll just see how this works. You know, you'll see how it works. And I do think it's better for crowds of frozen enemies than X-Fem Reactor is. But what it's particularly better at, I think, is tankier enemies, because with this version, it just keeps them frozen itself and does loads of damage to them. I do think this is better for that. What it's not better for is obviously the flamethrower, because of like just how it works, and also things like sticky flames. And therefore, if you were using crystal nucleation, the cryo cannon, you would probably want to use exothermic reactor. I think that makes perfect sense, because it's going to keep freezing itself anyway without your input, and kind of just keep temp shocking it. It's kind of crazy. But yeah, the impact is also there to deal chunk damage to the really tanky stuff, mainly Praetorians, and especially the oppressors. But apart from that, we're kind of just this really lean shredder of everything with this build. I find it to be very impressive. And yes, I do think fuck off. I do think the range is far more valuable here than the ammo. That is part of balancing out Cold Radiance with Tuned Caller's own strengths. I think that ability to take advantage of Tuned Caller's extra freezing power at longer ranges is somewhat a necessary endeavour in the case of this build. Anyway, I've been talking for too long. It's time to do our mission. A mission where we're going to have a certain mutator that makes enemies a lot tankier. Actually, well, Elite Threat's weird, because I actually find Elite Threat to not really make things tankier, to be honest, but what it does definitely do is make them more resistant to freezing. So, what's the solution to that if we do want to freeze them? Which, by the way, if I was given free reign, Elite Threat would be a sludge pump job. But in this case, it's not. So, what do we take on Elite Threat? Take Tuned Caller. How it works now. You see it? Okay, deep scan, so yeah, there will probably be enemies straight away. And I'm pretty sure I used this build like pretty much once, because I kind of already knew it worked. I spent a lot of time on the other build, I'm still not 100% happy with it, to be honest. So that's kind of just there to show something different, but this build, this mission is the real deal, or hopefully will be, as long as I don't drop the ball hilariously, which I definitely don't plan to, but stranger things have happened. And of course, it's always nice to have the drills. I mean, you should be taking the drills with the damage upgrade all the time anyway. But obviously, Cryo Cannon is the way to go. It's gonna be great. Ah, it's Spitball Vector. And a other thing. A breeder. And some grunts for me to do this too. Anyway, the Spitball Effector should be a fairly simple deal. We want to activate Cold Radiance against it as well, so it'd be close to us, very nice for that. There we go. That something like a web spitter. We don't really need the cryo, the wave cooker for, I should say. But yeah. You need to be a bit careful, because this thing is very ammo hungry when it comes to shooting tankier targets, so which is why the axes are pretty important, and why, like I said, if you want to take the ammo instead of the damage on the wave cooker, not a bad idea. But you still saw how it tore through those grunts, like when they were frozen. It's kind of hilariously easy. It's also, by the way, and I'm sure a lot of people know this by now, but Boiler Ray Wave Cooker is the best tiny enemy killer in the game. Even more specific than that, it is the best Nado site killer in the game. It is hilarious how good Boiler Ray Wave Cooker is against Nado sites. And that's not specific to this build, because the reason why it's so hilariously good is because it's almost impossible to make the Wave Cooker deal little enough damage to not one-shot Nado sites, because Nado sites have like 5 health, I think. So it pretty much always one-shots them, and just makes them all explode, and it just chains into just this glorious thing. It is so good. It's brilliant. You know, fuck it. Use this. Wait, I can't. I'm not above that. Actually, I'm pretty sure I'm not using Vampire on this build. Yeah, I'm not. And I remember why. That was actually, that was not for this video. That was a decision I made a long time ago, where I think this loadout slot, and not that it's entirely changed, but I think this loadout slot occupied a build where I was so confident in it that I don't need Vampire. I think that was the idea, because not that you objectively need Vampire, but it's just the obvious pick when you're Driller, and because he just can take such strong advantage of it with the drills and axes. But I think I had this thing where I was like, this is the build, this is the Driller build that I can use without Vampire. It was a bit cocky of me, but I think it's fine. Obviously with the Cryo Cannon, you should be using Vampire. It isn't a recommendation not use Vampire. Anyway, so here's our first elite enemy. Now, this fucker will not stay frozen for long and is hard to freeze. So this also kind of died to the explosive plants there. But this is still going to be a little bit of a test for me, how good this Cryo Cannon really is against elite enemies, because I know they are meant to resist cryo damage very well. So this is a bit of an experiment on my part, playing an elite threat specifically, but everything else I know that everything else that we encounter, everything that's not an elite enemy, I know it's good against. There's no experiment there. It's kind of like the mission is both an experiment and a founded showcase of something that I know is good. So it's somehow both of those things. Anyway, I think high time to probably skip to the next fight. Although I definitely want to see if we can handle this. Yeah, I wasn't going to freeze it before it burrowed away. I'm not surprised about it. It comes back. And yeah, Tune Cooler, that increased flow rate and freezing power is perfect for Macteris, because it's very often difficult to have Macteris in cold radiance range. When you can get them in range for that, it's wonderful, but not going to be often the case. Let's see how easy. Menace. Elite Menace. Okay, that wasn't terrible, ammo-wise. It's kind of like the equivalent of freezing a detonator. You just know it's going to be ammo. Maxing ammo. You just have to accept that. These grunts are not going to be frozen normally, because this wave cooker is pretty good at that as well. Which is the funny thing about Boiler Ray, and why I think it pairs best with the Cryo Cannon, is because it's kind of the only thing it pairs with. You can definitely use it with all three primaries. A very good upgrade. But in terms of pairing well, the wave cooker, where it really kicked in, means something. That was only because I have 5 axes. I don't want to be that difficult. Well, I'm not going to be super stingy with them either. Got the wave cooker actually pops exploders. A nice thing to be reminded of. Anyway, so actually no, I'll save those thoughts for a little bit. I think I'm going to be cut a little bit when I work on the resonance crystal. Hey. Oh, perfect. These idiots didn't know what they were in for. That was fantastic. Elite guard. Now I know the elite guards are worth the striking combo, really. Like I know that fucker's not. There we go. And you do just use the wave cooker, you're probably not taking a bit of damage, so. Well, the Cryo Cannon's there for a reason. Use it. Anyway. Good stuff, I think, undeniably. The very efficient crowd clearing capabilities of the Tune Cooler, the wave cooker, with that boiler ray. As in, you know, the boiler race showcase. I almost said that as a joke, or thinking it was going to be a joke. But boiler rate showcase will be a thing, not as a series, but well, the plan is, hasn't changed. I don't see it changing. Is when I'm done with overclocks, which will hopefully last until we get some new secondary weapon overclocks, and then be finished once I get through those. Once I'm done with these, I'm moving on to tier 5 upgrades. It won't get any more granular than that, don't worry. I'm not going to do like any other tier of upgrades, but tier 5 upgrades are they're overclocks anyway. They are kind of just, they are. Not even just unstables, they're kind of just overclocks. Sometimes they have penalties, sometimes they don't. But they are incredibly important, highly distinguishing upgrades. And I want to do a series on that because I think that would be very interesting, sort of a counter, like a companion piece to this series, but also, for me, I think it would be very engaging, personally, because it would be an opportunity to use these weapons, you know, locked in as far as what the tier 5 upgrade is, but complete free reign as far as overclocks go. So I think I'm going to find it actually probably more interesting to record, to be honest. Anyway, one of those moments where I skip to combat, so, you know. Okay, I've got a Goobon roll, which I'm actually going to direct Vodka away from because it kind of just annoys me when he does most of the damage to it. It kind of makes it feel like the one by having to freeze it. Oh, well that also does that. But we're still going to see how quickly I can freeze the Goobon. Bye-bye. Yep, that's worth the ammo. Also, that upgrade is weird, which is, what I'm talking about is this one. Temperature amplifier. Actually, what does it actually say? Right. Compensate for sudden changes in temperature causing to heat or cool burning or frozen targets further. Now, that wording is actually true, because that upgrade does really not... It's not going to set something on fire or freeze them. I think it can when they're really close, but that's not the point. The point is to keep them on fire or freezing. Obviously, you can see why that works well for us here. Yeah, you saw that grunt didn't get frozen, even though it was basically there already. Like, that upgrade is not there to activate the effect. It's just there to it's literally there to amplify it, not create it. If the thing's not on fire or frozen, chances are it's not going to do anything. It will keep them at their current temperature. That is literally what it's doing. So it will stop them from losing any of that progress effect, but it will not cause it. It will not cause them to be frozen. The other thing earned. Yeah, you can see, yep, Wave Cooker does end up getting used a bit more. But I have been using it a bit blasé, like sort of without the cryo cannon anyway, so that is actually on me. So you can be more efficient than this. Is not entirely because I haven't taken more ammo on the Wave Cooker. Trust me. Anyway, I'm probably going to cut to the next swarm, I'd say. Going to be really soon though.
Time to get see miners. Swarm detected.
Right, I will need a resupply. Not in the not too distant future, but I think I would like to be in some kind of position.
Molly, over here.
Ideally near the next crystal. I think I'll be alright. Putting with the
Incoming. Smoke him if you got him.
Ah, this is a perfect place to put it. Well, apparently the crystal's not nearby, but still.
Better stand back.
In fact, the Crystallite Deposit is the best thing ever because all they do is spawn grunt swarms. Okay, well, actually that's a slasher. That's free to slash. We'll do a bit of kiting work here.
Out of ammo. Lit. I got the
But yeah, I let the stalker hit me. Not on purpose, but I knew kind of knew it was going to happen as well. So yeah, on purpose, but not because I wanted to get hit by it, if that makes any sense. But it clearly did put me on the back foot a little bit.
Get ready. I've activated the machine.
Still have more than half my drill ammo. Kind of what happens if you don't use the drills much. You just, like, or anything, I suppose. But I have been using them in combat. But like, I don't know. The drills are kind of. Driller is technically very overpowered, I think. Kind of interesting. But yeah, I sort of fumbled a bit there, letting Stalker hit me, but you saw the crazy grunt killing efficiency. Obviously, in some ways, this is definitely like a wave cooker showcase, but it's also that's kind of what happens with the cryo cannon, and it kind of happens with Driller, certainly. Anyway, he relies on combos very much so. Anyway, what I will do is do the third resonance crystal or the Trisolite, because it will stop enemies from spawning basically. Not during the Trisolite, but it just means there won't be any more swarms until, you know, trying to be off the hook for a bit. So, I'm gonna go find that resonance crystal. You don't mind? Yes. I don't even know if it makes sense to be recording at the moment. What am I doing? New bug. I've had to let little more light in because she wants to sit on the windowsill and stick her head out my window. Yeah. Anyway, so we're doing this Trisolite. And yeah, as usual, the Trisolite is just going to be a source of enemies. But I have found when I've been doing this the last couple of times, I came across one. It wasn't the most fruitful thing. Because it is just grunt hordes, and that's not always that conducive to an impressive showcase of the build. But as far as what we're doing with the cryo cannon and the wave cooker in tandem, it's perfect. It's like the best. It's the thing. It's the best at. So actually, have no problem with this. And it looks like it's not. Wouldn't be hilariously easy to do anyway, which means I probably wouldn't do it. Oh, actually, hold on. Red trigger. Actually, the kind of thing I might not even have Bosco involved. Cool. I want to kite like a massive number. That is pretty close. I want to kite a massive number of grunts and just see what happens. I'll reset Bosco because he does like come out of that at times, getting ahead of it. I don't know how many can actually spawn, how many waves can spawn at once. I'll probably wait for another group of grunts to join and then I'll do the thing. Actually, this might be it. Oh no, we get more. That's a bit. I'll go till I freeze that dasher. I'm fairly confident Spets sitting next if I don't forget. Don't want to do that. Don't do that. No, I felt my controller vibration disappeared, but it actually didn't. Strange. El gato. Or el gatito.
Explosive! Pesticide coming up! No players ready. Axe on, axe off.
Not worth it. You should not do that. Next build, maybe you can. We've got 2 gods. Oh, they're gonna die. Forgot. Anyway, so yeah, a bit more crud killing just for us to enjoy Easter Pond. But now, time to do El Delivetor. Let's go. I'm actually not sure how this is. I'm not sure how this is gonna go. Obviously, Crystal Nucleation is basically custom built for this. Just plain old tune cooler. Sure. That good. Clearly, we're not cleaning that good one with ice. This is the kind of thing where Cold Radiance is, well, basically just spectacular. If we get stuck at any point, it's such a just a get out of jail free card. But I'm not going to let any of them break. So, you're right. Be fine. I literally haven't even talked about like whether or not I liked this Overclock. Suffice to say, I do. But only so much as I like the Cryo cannon. Which isn't much. It is my least favourite driller primary, easily. Actually, you know what? Not easily. I think the flamethrower and the Cryo cannon are somewhat close. But the flamethrower does win out just for general satisfaction reasons and the amazing gamma contamination pairing. The weirdly amazing gamma contamination pairing. Yeah. Shouldn't need to repair anymore? I don't know if that's actually entirely true. But yeah, I do like the tuned cooler, but it's not my go-to at all. I like the overclocks that stray a bit more from the cryo cannon or feed very well into itself. So I like Ice Spear because of how well you just freeze and then destroy with Ice Spear. Look at the web splitters, man. And I really, really like Ice Storm. I want to do Ice Storm. I'm at the whim of this fucking Wheel of Fate at the moment. And I am, by the way. And I know that sounds like weird and hypothetical, and it is, but, you know, psychosomatic things are real, in a way, because feelings are still real things. If you feel a certain way for a psychosomatic reason, like a boxy, you still feel it. So basically, I don't feel incentivized to play Deep Rock unless it's one of the overclocks being chosen for me by the wheel or to do for Overclock Showcase, because if I wasn't doing that, my only incentive would be to level up, and that has not feed into the infinite promotion, which I love. I'm so happy they added infinite promotions, but it is not incentive enough for me. I discovered that very quickly by just playing. Gone out the window. I discovered it early on through playing that wasn't going to suffice, and so when Overclock Showcase came along, there's sort of this new sort of replacement for Build Showcase. I think it had been on hiatus for some time. Like, oh, this is actually a really good reason to use it because it forces me to play the game differently. I'm not interested in the builds that I've been using for years at this point. They just don't interest me at all. I want to use a different thing all the time. That's what's going to keep Deep Rock interesting for me at the moment, and it has absolutely worked. I kind of love playing Deep Rock because of this series. So yeah, let's thank Overclock Showcase that it's keeping me motivated to keep making Overclock Showcases. Basically, that's one way of looking at it. I will not take a second resupply because I'm crazy like that.
Watch me float.
Drop pod has arrived. The mule has been called back. Drop pod departing in T-minus 5 minutes.
On pace for the first round.
But on that note, by the way, I mentioned Ice Storm. Ice Storm, for some reason, is the one Overclock that I want to use regardless, and I really don't know why. It's because you know, most of its existence, I hated Ice Storm. I thought it was terrible, but it's not, by the way. In fact, it even wasn't terrible even before they added the frozen damage bonus, where it now gets its own damage buffed by enemies being frozen. That really did a lot for it, but I think it was, when I really think about it, I think it was actually fine before that. I'm gonna be careful here because the J Breeds will actually you know, warm up enemies. You see, they set that on fire. You know what? We haven't used impact axes to like deal chunk damage as much as I thought it would, which is actually good. It means the wave cook has been doing more work than usual. I really hope you can see where the value is in this build. I think it's actually really fantastic. I mean, it's just, for me, this is a very classic, reliable driller build. It can come in the form of also using mega power supply as well, though. That's something that should be said. Hyper focus lens or super focus lens is not, I wouldn't call it essential to the build, really. You could definitely play with what wave cook growth you're using. Just don't use gamma contamination, and probably don't use diffusion ray either. What you can use, weirdly enough, is actually blistering necrosis. Is actually not a bad idea. Just because the damage that you get from it is actually kind of crazy. Sometimes it's best to put the blisters on first and then freeze and then switch back to wave cooker. I don't know. Not a strong recommend. Blistering necrosis is more so for Ice Storm. I wish it was for Ice Spear, but it's so unreliable to do that. But it is kind of fun when you get that to happen. I think it works. I think you can technically deal 3 times damage from the Ice Switch. Already does like 500 damage, and then on the weak point, which would do at least 2 times. I'm not sure. Lazy maybe may have covered that. Anyway, that was build 1, and like I said, the builds are distinguished mainly by the tier 5 upgrade, which means of course we get to use the lesser of the two. I'm going to quickly try and see if there's a mission that really works for this. Oh, but there are double XPs out the ass. Wow, look at that. But I don't think I can get any of these done quick enough to justify. So I'd rather do slower one. No, not the slower one, the quicker one, but not the one with low oxygen, but also the one that's going to challenge this next build the most, because I failed salvage ops with this other build. Yeah, like I said, it's about fragile. But seriously, look at this guy. He looks fucking... Look at him. Look at that. Amazing. It's about fragile, and conversely, being about fragile also meant being about as much freezing power as we could get. So we take both freezing power mods, and we take the flow rate mod, which means we freeze things with our direct beam, ice beam, as quickly as you can on the cryo cannon. This is the quickest you can get. It's really good against Mactera. It would be, though, it would be better against Mactera and things like that if we had range. I realised, even though it's the smaller ammo mod, I realised that I needed the ammo. I was taking the freezing power in tier 4. I needed that little bit of extra ammo. That was the most recent change to this, and most important, because what hasn't changed is actually, I started with the DPC, and I went through a lot of variations of it, including Overcharger, of all things. I ended up back on Heavy Hitter, but not Fire Heavy Hitter. Because in this build, even though we are maxing out our freezing power, I think that freezing delay, or rather the charge up delay on the cryo cannon that Tune Caller nerfs, like as a penalty for, is better that we don't temp shock enemies still. And in fact, because of how fragile works, so I need to explain fragile actually. I just realised. So fragile basically means that whenever, what does it actually say? Chance of frozen targets will spontaneously shatter. Wrong. What it actually does is, it means that whenever the cryo cannon brings an enemy below 100 HP, it has a chance to immediately shatter them. And that means whenever it damages an enemy, to either, so when it damages them to bring them under 100 HP, and when it damages them when they're under 100 HP, there's just a chance that the enemy will shatter. Which is why it's so good against grunts, because they are immediately under 100 HP as soon as they're frozen because of the damage that we're doing. Just inherently speaking. So it's amazing against grunts, and pretty good against slashers still as well, but starts to crumble a little bit against guards because they take so much longer to get down to that HP threshold. And that's why the EPC works quite well, because EPC can get tankier enemies down to that threshold very quickly without unfreezing them, but still doing like a lot of damage. You know, it's literally 120 damage per shot against frozen enemies. So it works really well to get them down to that threshold, or to just finish them as well. More often than not, I just finish them, because this thing just frees them quickly, and then we can just destroy them quickly with this. Because EPC, I don't think about it very much, but its fire rate is actually really high. It's pretty much as fast as you can press the trigger. Kind of fun. And this thing also just destroys Macteras and Grunt Hordes. But we also do want it for freezing tanky enemies when need be. So sometimes I'll use my HEs against those Macteras or Grunt Hordes. And I've had a lot of fun with HEs here. I think the HEs are actually really good. In a really good place. And our direct damage is strong enough where we just freeze something and then just tear it apart of this thing. It's so good that I don't feel the need for the impact axis at all. Better than that, I'm taking Satchel Charger with both damage mods, which is really fun for one-shotting Praetorians, or almost one-shotting. It's actually it's literally 25 health off killing a Praetorian one-shot. I think that should just be bump it up by 25. Come on, seriously. So yeah, it's pretty simple across the board. And Fragile, look, Fragile is worse than Cold Radiant. I will tell you this very openly, but I think this is a pretty good way of using it. Having the most freezing power is a good way of using it, because it means that it's because of how effective this is against grunts. I actually went through a short period of using damage with this, but then I realized I think freezing power is meant to come into play here, like in the biggest way. This is the maximum freezing power build without using Cold Radiance, so you know. But the damage was fun, and it will probably rear its head with flow rate expansion, even though that doesn't make sense. But it will probably come up again. So you can look forward to that, I guess. But yeah, for now, let's just see if I've actually gotten good at this build or not over the week of practice I've had. Longer than it has been recently, because most of the last half a dozen Overclock showcases have been recorded like within a couple of days of each other. I just went on top of a roll, getting them done really quickly. I can't remember what really got in the way of that. Nothing really, I think, to be honest, but I kind of just realised I wanted to slow down a tad. And obviously it worked clearly because I needed more time with this Overclock than I realised. Wouldn't be surprised if that doesn't change too much, because next week is M1000. So I won't be surprised if I need to practice with that. Which I don't have any strict hopes for. I mean, I guess minimal clips would be really uninteresting. It's kind of just a very boring Overclock, but aside from that,
Return to base.
I'm not against any of them, actually. Hipster, AS, Active Stability System, which, hold on, I'm not ready. No, I haven't, I've only done one. It's Overclock. I've done build showcases that use Active Stability System. I've used it, I think, on one of the Bolt Shark video, that's already happened, Overclock showcase, but not apart from that. Also, I get to finally check again, because I'm actually still not 100% sure if I've got everything from the lost packs yet. Yeah, M1000. You know, Hipster, Active Stability System, Electricity Focus Shots, and Cubicle in the Chamber. I'm down for all of them. I'm actually kind of on the Electricity Focus Shots mindset, I think. I'd love to do that, actually. But, like I said, it's not up to me. Anyway, I think for the purposes of this video / mission as well, I will skip to the first bit of combat. It's happening. Acid Spitter. Acid Spitters are very doable. Not this. Wouldn't need to do that to you. Yeah, herein lies the problem with cold radiance, or not having cold radiance. No problem with the EPC. I love the EPC here; it's great. But yeah, the lack of cold radiance really throws me off as well because I'm so much more used to having it than not. But you probably could observe some of the independency that it gains against grunt swarms there, although obviously it was mixed in a bit. But this seriously, when it's just grunts and slashers. I mean, it doesn't really matter if there's stuff mixed in. I'm just telling you, grunts will just be gone, and it just lets you focus on. It means we don't have to take the wave cooker, which is sort of more all-encompassing, and kind of kills everything at once, or tries to. But obviously, we'll still leave the tanky target behind. Unlike this build, where the grunts and slashers will be dead, leaving the tankier stuff behind for a more powerful secondary that can focus on targets. But the lack of safety is the biggest problem, because cold radiance, it just keeps everything at bay. It means slashers can't really get behind you and stun you and like that, like what happened there, because they're already frozen. Tiny enemies can't really get past your sort of proximity because you just get immediately frozen. We don't have that. We're actually really bad against tiny enemies with this build. That's why the Cryo Cannon and Flamethrower are good against tiny enemies. I think the Flamethrower is still pretty good, especially because of sticky flames. Like, even without specking into them, they still work pretty well against swarmers. But without the Radiance upgrades, these weapons aren't actually as good against tiny enemies as you think. Anyway, grunts. Grunts. You see, it does basically freeze them and then basically kill them instantly. And yeah, there is an aspect of this build which is getting even tankier targets down to the 100 HP threshold. It's not a great idea. You can do it, okay. It's not great. So that wasn't great either. Don't do that. Like, don't do that either. I forgot I had hit sheets. So I'm so used to using impact axes because they're just so much better. But I still like HEs in this build. Ooh. Can you blame me? You can blame me. That wasn't that wise.
That's what you get for melting my...
Yeah, and this build, strength-wise, was actually a lot better when I had the range, but I really just ended up realising that that little bit of ammo might be what I want.
I got the stalker! Did you see that? No!
And I have Vampire on this build. There's something.
Oh, I called for more.
But yeah, I've kind of already described the defensive problem of not having cold radiance. And yeah, that's why this build is going to be challenged by Salvage Op. Because things like cold radiance and heat radiance thrive in Salvage Op. But we don't have that on a weapon that normally would, or more often than not would, based on choice. A Prospector. Now that is interesting. We can do a prospector. I think. No problem. I'm gonna try and yeah, see, it does. It can occur like the instant kill. Try it a bit more. Yeah. It can be pretty decent. Chat effect. I think it should be changed a fair bit. I don't think it should be changed so that there's no threshold. I don't think the threshold's a bad idea, but I do think it should be changed so that it can be triggered by any damage source. I don't think it should be tied to the cryo cannon. And I know it's kind of hard to do because it's like, how do you tell the game what is a shatter type of frozen enemy and what's just been frozen by another source? Because of course there can be more than one source. There could be another driller, and there could be a scout who's got some freezing capabilities. So how do you delineate? But I think it is possible. It really just depends on whether, I think you would have to code it so that it's like, if it was this cryo cannon that did the last bit of cold damage, I guess, the enemy, something like that. Oh, I would imagine you'd have to do it. No expert on this, but I'd like to say I do have some coding experience. I do, far from professional though. Where's this heals up? Oh, there. Fair enough. Well, I'm not sure how the prospects are going to go. I'm probably going to try and nuke it, actually. Naturals. I'll probably camp that after having resupplied anything. There's a warden around. Fine. Don't have a problem with wardens. As in, we won't have a problem with wardens. We can just, you know, cryo cannon can just go straight through the crowd towards the warden and freeze it. And then we can pew pew until it's dead. Works.
Unit powering up. Good work.
Where is that damn tin?
3 meals to do. There's no one over there. Okay. I can feel a pressure wave probably spawning soon, but either way, I'm gonna go do some. The wave did spawn right after I fell into a hole and lost most of my health. Yeah, this build is also more ammo hungry, obviously, and we don't have the range either. Really annoying. Okay.
We got the menace.
There are shortcomings here. There's a reason why I said I wasn't too happy with this one. I just believe that it'll probably be the best way to use Shatter, because it's not on anything else, I can tell you that. It's not on any other Overclock. Maybe Snowball. But then again, Snowball reduces your max ammo. Just annoying. And it's definitely not Ice Storm, because Ice Storm's already doing enough damage to take care of that threshold, right? 100 HP in 3 ticks against a frozen enemy. So, and therefore obviously you want cold radiance to make sure they're frozen. Like, definitely not Ice Storm. Definitely not Ice Spear. It's ridiculous. You need cold radiance there. There's no flow rate downside. In fact, I'm pretty sure Ice Storm doesn't decrease flow rate either. I think. I don't think it does, and that's kind of one of the reasons why it's so good, where Face Melter isn't. If they did add a thing where Face Melter dealt more damage to on fire enemies, we'd be onto something. I actually think that's actually like a fine idea. And it definitely should do armor breaking. I can tell you that. I think it's weird that it doesn't. Face Melter? It's gonna melt armor. I mean, you know, like some of them are literally face plates, like the Corespawn crawlers or Brundles. If you can call what the Brundle has a face. Not sure you can. Hello?
Covering fire.
Oh! What the hell? I wanted to try and use the HE's armor breaking. 4. I thought it was going to be better than that. Literally is 400% armor breaking. What am I doing? Why did I try and do that? Clearly I need to think about resupplying already. Upsetting. Oh. Although actually I think once I've resupplied I might tackle the prospector, to be honest. Although actually to do that I would have to start off with my nuke tactic. Or resupplying. Actually no, I don't have to do that. I can retrieve it. In fact, I think I'm going to do that. I'm going to be careful because this thing could just explode. If something hits it. Wait, no, hold on, that's not how this works. I would have to detonate it before throwing another one. I don't know how that slipped my mind. But it did. Anyway, so let's try this. That destroyed both engines? It might have done. Anyway, right, shredders are going to be entirely real. Control, however, I would love to be able to freeze. Right, 2 patrol. Okay, we're going to try and both group of resupply, I think.
Take down the prospector before it gets away.
Oh, but I'll just try and be against this guy. It's one of those builds that makes me remember why I don't find the cryo cannon that impressive. Because one of its tier 5s is just not that good. Dude. Let's try again. Yeah, it's not going to happen. If I had cold radiance, I'd be a lot more confident about this. But don't. Oh, I will just have. I think I'll just have Bosco to target them.
These are trigger fingers, not hacker fingers. No.
He sounds like a shy guy. I just realised. The hell? Alright, the next patrol bot I will try it again. I think it's only fair. There's the hole I fell down earlier. I don't know if that shattered or not. It might have done. There might have been technically shatter activating that. Right. Alright. Okay. You got it. Fucking hell. Not very impressive, was it?
At least we don't have to haul all these minerals around ourselves. Stop this.
Well, the prospect is still not dead, but I think I need to give it a rest. Didn't give it a rest for that long. A bunch of shit just spawned. Actually, not because I scanned. Actually, no. I think it would be because I found the mule. That would work. Oh. Was it just swarmers? Oh. Fine. And exploders. Right. But like, even digging up legs can cause a pressure wave to spawn. There you go, you can hear it now. I can hear it, certainly.
Down. Now kill the rest of them. No ammo left.
Worth it.
Destroyed. Let's grab it.
I think I I think I knew I was going to die there. I think I knew that. But I still wanted to do that. I wanted to fucking, like, bomb it from above. That was... of that. Alright, I'm going to get on with repairing these mules, though. Actually, yeah, this might not be anything. It might just be Orca plus exploders. Well, you know. There's a Praetorian, I guess. Which we've noticed, I'm not even bothering to try and do the fragile shatter effect on. It's annoying. Oh my god. What a stalker. Oh, some top tier stalker gameplay. Whoever's playing as the stalker is legit.
Molly, come here.
Lovely. Not much you're gonna have to do. I'm actually collect some gunk seeds, like quite manually. Manlily. There's no word for that, is there? But you know what I'm trying to say when I say manlily? Manlily. Like manly, but like adverb.
Stay by my side, Bosco.
Not sure it exists.
I'm glad we have someone to carry
Malely.
rocks and stones.
Feeling extra fruity. The equivalent of doing something. The male. The adverb for male is gaily. Basically. If you're secure of yourself. Oh yeah, I did this these push-ups very gaily.
Mule operational. Well done.
An oppressor. I'd be Noah. Oppressors, you saw me to pull some shit there to just tank its health. That's because freezing is just not the move of oppressors. It is because we're not that inefficient at doing it, really. And we can get some decent damage out with EPC, but it's quite a short window. It's absolutely the right thing to do is to take advantage of your other damage sources for the oppressor. Even if your other damage sources are better suited for like crowds of enemies. If they can do big damage to the oppressor, you do it.
Do Rock seriously need to invest in some better equipment?
It's the kind of thing where like the wave cooker and flamethrower works quite well. Like it's sort of like an exothermic reactor, like evidence, right, for my case. Because oppressors, yeah, they also don't stay on fire for very long either, like just like with cold, but they are pretty easy to set on fire, relatively speaking. And like I said, very responsive because the flamethrower has no charge up time. You can kind of just, you know, keep setting on fire, and sticky flames will help with that as well, whether you're specking into it or not. And obviously the wave cooker itself will help, so it's actually fairly easy to beat into the thermal shock compressors. Yeah, so just a bit of wisdom there for you. I need to find the gunk seeds really. Do that.
Remember, you can always deposit on the side of the drop part.
Actually, this. I'm out of satchels. Well, really, I should be. Don't do that. Don't do what I just did. Waste.
All mules are secured. Now to get the pod working. First, establishing a proper connection between the pod and the
Oh, well, I'm going to have to do something I really don't like doing. I'm going to have to take a resupply of number above 50% ammo. But I think having all that ammo that I will get from resupplying, and at least having one satchel in my pocket, is probably pretty good insurance. Like I said, I failed salvage ops with this build before. Yesterday, I think. It might have been the day before it. But it's happened. Many such cases. Oh shit, it's died. Okay.
Initiated. Do not leave the triangulation zone, or we will lose the connection. We only got one shot at this.
Oh, don't tell me it's an explosion infestation. Goodness me.
Triangulation at 50%.
Drop the damn acid emitter. You.
Triangulation at 75%. Almost there.
Okay, there's going to be a fairly soft uplink. Yeah, that was pretty soft.
Remote control reestablished. Stand by. Sending in fresh fuel cells for the drop pod.
That moment there where I HE'd the group and then Explode was left behind, but then exploded a grunt that just walked in. Like, how smoothly that went and just flowed. Like, it's a completely dynamic bit of PvE combat. It's just,
Fuel cells arrived. Connect them to the drop pod by dragging.
it's not that I need it.
Cable.
It's not, I don't need the reminders, but it is nice to have those reminders of why this game is so, like, actually good. It's not just vibes. Like, the systems for really just dynamic and interesting PvE combat are so just well-rounded. Actually, maybe rounded isn't the best word, but they're so weird and, like, thorough and
Resupply arrived.
unexpected sometimes. Gives me such intrinsic faith in Ghost Ship and taking on the whole new platform of that. At least it's still, you know, Rockall, at least it's still deep rock. There's a really nice quality to that, where it's like it's still in a way going to be very sort of comforting,
Fuel cells connected to drop pod.
familiar,
Fuel cells for charge.
but also completely like fresh at the same time, like a refreshment. Like, I don't know what it's like though. Naturally, I'm trying to come up with some random analogy for Rockall. Of course I am. But this isn't about Rockall. It's about deep rock video. Let's keep it that way. That was Rockall. Actually, I'm thinking about when this goes up. There's an entirely chance that a second playtest has started by the time this video comes out. Actually, I don't know if they plan on doing more than one per month though. Can't really back this up. My sense is that the plan is for the playtest to be 2 weeks long and to do one per month. Until the end of Q3, I think. That's kind of my impression. Not based on a whole lot, fact. But I feel like I am somewhat clued into Ghost Ship zonings. That even my guesswork has some credence. Yeah, I knew that was going to be death. I got the pincered by the acid spitter and it's that's pretty good work on their part. Taking a resupply for health reasons, because you're allowed to do that, I think, especially in solo. One of the situations where Cold Radiance, this is Cold Radiance basically, or the punishment for not having it. You can see how desperate the situation is, where I'm actually using the built-in sticky ice. The 3 swarmers. Very unusual tactics for me. But if I was having to fight things like shellbacks, I probably would not make it through this, to be honest. Oh shit, I overpressurized or lost pressure.
Charged. Drop pod engine powering up. Hold your ground. We're almost
Okay, that was almost really bad because that's the whole of Doom. We put a resupply there, so I can potentially come back to, like swing back around to. Kind of the idea.
pod reactor spooling up.
Supply pod is here.
I actually missed a couple shots there. We could have done some good damage to that press. Right, getting.
Calculating orbital trajectory.
Lift Praetorian.
Not sure what that's going to kill.
Getting more ammo.
I need a resupply. I had to use that last HE, so I was on half ammo. It's just so autistic. I don't know if I think it would be overpowered or not to be able to over resupply, like to not actually technically have a maximum, and for all the maximum values to actually just be starting values instead. I don't know, it probably would be, because it means that you wouldn't have to resupply during an industrial sabotage. You could just take the resupplies at the beginning, but it's like, well, about health, because you obviously shouldn't be able to over resupply health.
Drop pod powered up and ready to leave.
And then you'd be like, well, why shouldn't you? It's like, I don't know. Use your instincts. I think I'm probably right about that. Not saying that you should be able to over resupply ammo, like inherently, but it makes more sense than doing it for health. Anyway, so that was Tune Caller. It's a really good overclock. It doesn't do much to change Fragile being the worst option, but it is also the best option for Fragile. I think that much has been, well, I don't know about proven. Proven probably not that much, I'm sure. I don't know if I've proved that this is the best way to use Fragile. But yeah, it is a fantastic freezing tool. In some ways, ITE is better, mainly because of Cold Radiance is... Because really, when it comes down to it, Cold Radiance is the best way to freeze things. And Cold Radiance doesn't increase the flow rate, which this overclock does. And higher flow rate makes Cold Radiance worse. So ITE is arguably, I would probably say it's better, but that added freezing power for what you're freezing directly probably balances things out, where Tune Caller is a pretty good option. I mean, it does make flow rate expansion redundant. Guys, just give flow rate expansion something. Like give it range or direct damage, maybe, because the only thing that adds direct damage is Ice Storm. I mean, thank God Crystal Nucleation is impacted by the damage mod, but still, goodness me. Wow, that's kind of wild. I think I will. The chances of me doing this are low, but I know how I would do it. But anyway, now it's time to find out what next week's overclock will be. Of course, if you're following along, you would know that it's going to be the M1000. Let's see if it's going to be the overclock that's already selected or not. So how this works is we number the overclocks and the weapon from left to right, top to bottom. So we got oh, it's gone. We've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 7. We've actually already done 1 and 2, so we literally just need on our Wheel of Fortune, which is right. I'm actually going to adjust it, but all we need is 3 to 7. I've got 3, I've got 4, and 5 and 6. Hide that. Close ads. I should probably link the wheel website at some point. Anyway, here it is. The Wheel of Fortune that will decide my fate. Or M1000 over. Like I said, would actually love to electrocuting focus shots. I guess it's 5 is the, oh, for fuck's sake. I was talking all this shit about like motivation. I mean, at least we're getting it out the way. At least. Yeah, I got 5, which is minimal clips. Fuck. The worst one. Literally the worst. Not. I mean, you know, it's clean, but it's like the worst worst option. I'm going to change you to minimal clips. Fucking hell. I don't... Okay. 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 That is fine. We work with this. So yeah, that'll be next week. Till then, I hope you all enjoyed. If you did, please make sure to like and subscribe if you want to see more stuff like this, and you want to stay on top of everything to do Deep Rock and Roadcore. For now, until the end of the time. Also, click the bell. And now I guess we've got to go get a cold themed drink. I wonder what that'll be. So obviously there was one of the more recent episodes, which was AI Stability Engine, which got an inordinate amount of views, and I think it's because I used the word AI in the title, but obviously had to. There was a 21-second delay on that between like the game audio and everything else. I'm hoping that won't be the case in the future, because I think one of the ways to remedy it, basically to make sure the Elgato hasn't been plugged in too long. Like genuinely, I think it causes a delay after it's been a while, so I plugged it in and started recording pretty much immediately. If it doesn't fix it consistently, because it's an inconsistent issue anyway, it doesn't crop up all the time. But for example, if this one has delay, I'll have to look into like a better solution, because yeah, I mean, I don't think it's right either. I do have the time to figure this kind of thing out at the moment. I've got more free time, a lot of free time at the moment. So anyway, that was it. See you next time. So this was a bit longer than I would have liked. Oh well.